This conference will now be recorded.
When you go for asynchronous process, more data to process. Everyone, a large volume of data, long running process. Anything else? Anything else? Okay. So how many ways you can run your Apex code asynchronously? What are the frameworks we have? All others? Batch Apex, Queueable, feature method, and then Scheduleable Apex. Okay. Right. So batch Apex basically to process large volume of data. That's what we are going to see today. And this is to chain the job, right? To chain one asynchronous with another asynchronous. We cannot be done in feature. Am I right? In feature method, we cannot do that. Right? A feature method for long running process, we separate that in a static method annotated with @feature annotation, right? And the call out, when you call out any application from your synchronous process, then use @feature call out equal to true, and then we avoid mixed DML exception when you use feature method, right? It's nothing but you separate it from current transaction by using @feature annotation. Got me? So, and schedule effects to run at particular time, isn't it? So, which may take longer time, and it's a period everyday routine. It has to run, or else monthly once or weekly once. So, as per your need, you can schedule your class to run at particular time. Okay. So, using schedulable effects. So we know how to do this queueable and feature. What is the difference between queueable and feature? What is the difference between queueable and feature? Everyone? So guys are no use of attending everyday class. You should have practice and you have to complete this part on the same day itself. Okay, you have to complete whatever the topics we cover on the same day itself with all the considerations, limitations, everything. You have to be very fast. There are huge self-syllabus, very huge. Okay, so you should have a good idea on each and every topics on the whole ecosystem. It's not just every day attending the session and not practicing. No, it's of no use. So what's the difference? Oh, any difference you know you come across, you come to know? I mean, you're able to recall from the yesterday session. Can you tell me each one of you one point? One point is enough. From each one of you, one point is enough. Just one information difference between queueable and feature. Any difference? Just one difference from each one of you. One difference. I need only one difference. Job ID. Okay. Job ID is the queueable Apex will return the job ID. Feature will not return the job ID. Okay. Enough for Naveen. Others. Any other difference? Others. Nothing comes in your mind? I mean, I said one difference enough from your end. Okay. So S object type parameter you cannot pass as a argument to the feature method. In queueable Apex, you can you can you can have any type of argument. You can have any type of argument. Okay. You follow this, all of you? In Cubable Apex, it accepts any type of argument. Okay, so how do you accept? How do you pass the parameter to your Cubable Apex? How do you pass parameter to your Cubable Apex? Suppose this is a Cubable Apex, and so where is the option here to pass parameter? So we have method. It's a method belongs to interface, right? It's a method belongs to interface. So the interface method we provide implementation. So I cannot pass argument, right? Because the interface method only accepts one argument. Okay, then how can I pass, other S object type argument to feature method? So you have to just go with the constructor. We know constructor, right? Every class has a constructor. So the constructor here, say for example, it's going to accept account object. I can do this. I can do this, or you can SOQL. Suppose I just whatever you want, you can do that. So it accept a subject type argument also. Any type of you pass argument to the future Cubable Apex by using constructor. You got me? Everyone is clear? Everyone is clear here? Okay. So these are the differences, right? And you cannot call one feature from another feature. But in Cubable, I can call another key, another asynchronous process. I can enqueue. I can using enqueue job. I can call another Cubable Apex, chaining the job. So to chain the jobs, asynchronous jobs, we go for Cube. Okay. Let's see what is batch Apex. Why people are keeping quiet? No response. Am I audible? I'm speaking actually. I'm audible. All of you. Okay. So batch effects is basically used to process large volume of data. Batch effects is used to process large volume of data. So if you like to process large volume of records on, on a particular time or anything, you can go for batch effects. What is the framework behind this? Why we are saying this only to process large volume of data? Because suppose I process say 10,000 records, the framework will enable you to, the framework will help you to process all 10,000 records into different number of batches, small batches. Okay, like this. And each batch will process by default to 200, and you can maximum go to 2000. Each batch can process default 200. Minimum can be any size. You can explicitly mention. But by default, the system will process 200 records in every batch. Okay. So like that, right, it will divide. It will divide. Okay. So how many batches? 50 batches will run, isn't it? 50 batches will run. And all the batches are can run parallel. It means all run at once. All run at once. Which means what? Like you process just 200 records. Right? When you process 200 records, then how much time it takes? So close to that, you will see the time will be taken to process 10,000 records. Then think about you process 1 million data, you process 5 million data. All the data will be divided into equal, different number of small batches, and each batch will process, by default 200 records. And all batch will run, small batches will run parallel, which means all run at once, and there won't be any dependency between the batches. Each batch will consider as separate transaction. What do you mean by a transaction? So you have governor limits for one transaction or the whole whole application. You have governor limits for one transaction or for a whole application. One transaction, right? So each batch considers one transaction, right? No dependency. The batch 2 may complete before batch 1. The batch 5 may complete before batch 2, right? Any may complete anytime. Anyone can complete anytime, no dependency. And each are considered as discrete transaction, right? You might have seen this term discrete, right? Discrete, separate batches. So when you have separate batches, when framework makes these small batches separate batches, then each batch will have its own governor limit, right? How many governor limits available applicable for DML in one transaction? How many DML you can perform in one transaction? As per the governor limit, how many DML you can perform? Insert, update, up, right? Merge, delete. How many DML you can perform in one transaction? Maximum, as per the governor limit. Yes, what is this? 150, right? 150. And how many SOQL I can run in one transaction? How many SOQL statement? 100 for synchronous. How many for your synchronous? 200. Okay, and higher governor limits. That is one advantage in the asynchronous process. Even it go for batch viewable, feature, scheduleable, everywhere it's a 2 day SOQL is allowed. Okay, not like 100 synchronous. Synchronous will accept only 100, but no change in DML. DML remains same for both synchronous and asynchronous. Am I clear? Okay, so what happens now? The 200 SOQL limit is available for batch 2, right? And 200 SOQL limit is available for batch 3 and so on. So all the governor limits is available for every batches. No dependency, right? A fresh governor limit is applicable, isn't it? You got me? So now you see, there won't be, you'll never hit a governor limit, right? You'll never hit a governor limit. Suppose I process this in synchronous process. There is a chance you may hit governor limit. Am I right? How many records you can process in one transaction, you know? How many records you can process in one transaction in DML? Suppose I need to update, I'm going to update. Yes, 10,000. All right, good. This is my logic in my application. Okay, suppose this has, so how many maximum rows you can get in one SOQL in one transaction? 50,000 rows, isn't it? 50,000 rows. And how many maximum number of records you can process in one transaction? I mean, DML you can perform in one transaction is going to be 10,000. 10,000. Okay, these are all maximum governor limit I'm talking about. Max, right? And how many SOQL you can run in synchronous? 100, like this. And suppose this row returns, this row returns, this row returns uh, I am sorry. Suppose this row returns uh, more than 10,000 rows. The circle returns more than 10,000 rows. Of course, we are limit 50,000, right? We are limit 50,000, right? Even if it returns less than 50,000, then how many records you may process here? More than 10,000, right? We'll hit a governor limit. We'll hit a governor limit says 10,000 rows, more than 10,000 rows, you cannot process in one transaction. It can be, you can have any number of DML in the whole process, but altogether maximum only 10,000 rows you can process, right? So, right, it will give a governor limit. Then what happens in this case? How many records maximum you are processing as per the default batch number? Just 200, right? 200. Even if you go for SOQL in loop, it's going to be 200, and even if you have a DML in loop, it's going to be 150, right? So you have separate governor limits available for every batches. You will never hit a governor limit in BatchFX framework. You follow this, all of you? You follow this? Follow this? Others? Anybody has any queries? Kiran, Alfia, any queries here? You got it? Why you go for BatchFX? What about this? As per my organization, there may be 50,000 to 20,000 opportunity records which will be closed every day. Got me? Which needs to be closed every day. Okay. Can I do it in a synchronous process? We cannot, right? We cannot perform DML more than 10,000 rows. We cannot perform DML, more than 10,000 rows. We cannot perform. So we have to go for BatchFX framework. We cannot do it in because it will hit a governor limit. Am I right? We can only perform DML on 10,000 rows in the one transaction. We have to go for BatchFX. Got me? So we'll see how we are going to do that. Okay, right? And so how we are going to implement the BatchFX? The BatchFX we are going to implement in this format. I mean, we are going to implement the interface like your queuable Apex, where you implement the interface called queuable, right? The class must implement the interface database dot batchable interface, standard interface. Standard interface belongs to database class. Okay, and when you say interface, means interface will have a method with just signature, right? We have to provide implementation for the method. Am I right? So here you see um, we have three methods in the interface. What is the interface name? Batchable interface. Okay, it has a three method: start, finish, run. Got me? So suppose this is my class name, and we have to implement the interface, right, Ma? We have to implement the interface. And what are the three methods I have to provide implementation? Start method, start method. Okay. Start method. You have to provide implementation for this method. But this method is not like a void or method has some return type. Method has a return type. Okay, as per the interface they define method as a return type. What is the return type? Database.query locator. Okay, and the method also has inbuilt argument. The method also has a argument. Argument is called database dot batchable context. Okay, I would type everything, each and every lines on my own, but to save time, I just go with get the notes and explain here line by line, paste it and line by line explaining. But usually I would type each and every lines on my own to save time, no, we can cover some other important things also, right? Fine with all of you? I can do like this, right? Else you'll takes another 1.5, 2 months to complete the course. Okay, right. So the return type is this one. So what I can return, if it's string, then you have to return string. If it is a query locator, I have to return database.query locator. What is database.query locator? It is, you see, okay, what is database.query locator? Just trying to give some different perspective explanation, right? So okay, you see here, database.getQueryLocator, database.getQueryLocator. Okay, so which accept an argument in the form of, okay, getQueryLocator. Database getQueryLocator is a method in the database class. Okay, I have to check the database class, not this one. Let me go to the class database, and it has a method called getQueryLocator. Yes. So what you can pass as an argument to this method, the static method. Class name is database, method name is getQueryLocator. When you pass a query in the form of string, when you pass a query in the form of string, it's going to return database.queryLocator as a return type. Okay. So basically, we are going to have like this: database.queryLocator. First, I will write this query locator. Select ID from opportunity, for example. Okay, and then right, what it's going to return? It's going to return database.query locator. So what I have to return now? Anybody? What I have to return now? What I have to return now? Kiran, what I have to return now? Alfia, what I have to return now? Here. Jagdish, what I have to return now? Results, isn't it? Return type is basically get query locator, ma. Okay, you have to return results, right? So you see here, we are just implementation just given for only one method. So we have other two methods as well. Okay, we have other two methods as well. So the method is basically uh, execute method. Execute method is a kind of void method, no return type. It's a void method which is going to have two arguments. One is batchable context. Each and every method will have a we need to pass the context as per the signature of the method. You don't give your own signature here. It's an argument defined in the method belongs to this interface. Even see the interface takes a different format here, right? Interface also takes a different format. Batchable, angle bracket open, and have some S object parameter. So these are how you implement the interface. It's not just interface you define, system define interface. Okay, and the first argument is going to be batchable context, and the second argument, it can be list of S object. That's it, list of S object. But as per this context, opportunity is a object. We performing we query the object, so we just keep this object, because what happens in batchfx framework, this suppose this returns 1,000 rows, then then whatever logic you are going to perform on this data, you are going to have here the logic, right? What are business logic? This is what are the records you are going to process. That records you are going to get it in the start method. But what you're going to do with the data, that logic you're going to keep it here. The logic can be a DML operation, isn't it? Usually you'll go for update or insert, right? So all those logic you'll have it here. And so as I said, the batch will divide into different small batches. And what happens in this case, the start method will get the data from database, and it breaks this data into different number of small batches. By default, how many records it will run? How many batches will run? If it is 1,000, 500, sorry, 200 each, right? 5 batches, and you know, and in one batch. So for every batches, the execute method will run. When I say batch, B1, B2, it's nothing but execute method. So there are 5 execute method will run. If follow this, the 5 times the execute will run, and each execute automatically the framework will feed 200 records into this list. So this execute will run, it's considered as a small batch. This execute is considered as a small batch. So execute will run multiple times, but all run in parallel as separate transaction. Okay, and this will get a small number of 200 records in each transaction. Okay, this will automate, right? The start method will feed, okay, will feed 200 records. It's not like a start method will feed. It's like once a data is retrieved, then the framework will divide, you know different number of execute, nothing but small batches, and each batch will process by default 200. We are yet to see how to run this process. Okay, we are just discussing uh, how it process the data, but how to run we have to see later. Okay, so next to this. And what is the other method you have to provide implementation? Finish method. Okay, finish method. Finish method is used to do certain post database operation, batch effects operation, database operation. Once all the small batches are run, then finish method will run. You can have a logic here, or you can also have a test implementation. Okay, implementation means what? You have to give open and close bracket and all those things you provided. Okay, it's not necessarily you have to provide a logic. Okay, so which is not necessary. So finish method can be blank, or else you can do any post operation, post batch operation. Whatever now you performed, you like to send email to status of the batch. You can do here post operation. Okay, you got me? People are clear with this? How many times in one batch? How many times this start method will run in one batch? If I submit this batch only once, right? So how many times this may run? As many number of small batches the execute will run. How many times the finish will run? Once. Okay, right? Right. If you take your example here, okay, how you write this story? My recommend is get all the uh, data which opportunity which are created today. Can anyone write this query? Get the opportunity that are created today. Right. Get me the query. Make it fast. If you try something, then I would also give more, information to you. It's not like I keep talking. You know this, right? Get me the things quickly. Okay, great. So select ID from opportunity where created date equal today. Okay. But what I have to do here, I need to close the opportunity, right? I need to close the opportunity every day, right? Then it will get all the opportunities, right? Even which are closed or not closed. Then how to get only the opportunities that are closed today and and not closed. I mean, which are created today and not closed. Sorry, which are closed today. What is the requirement? As per organization, it will be closed every day. Okay, it will be closed every day, and for every okay, just for an assumption, this is my requirement. Okay, so get all the requirements. I mean, operations which are closed today, and update the closed date as today. That means the closed date should be today. Basically, when you close the opportunity, the current date will be automatically gets populated. But I just say, even you can say like, I can update the next field. We need to recreate the scenario. Okay, so no further action is required. Some text you have to go into, put it in your next field. There is a field called next step. Sorry, there you have to update this text. So I need to get the options which are closed today, and stage is equal to close to one. Only I'm okay. I'm just looking for close to one opportunities, right? So this query I have to pass as a string here. This query I have to pass as a string. When you pass as a string, you see string is also as a character here, right? Okay, I'm just talking about the string concatenation now, not the batch effects. Okay, so we just do it in the developer console. Got me what I'm trying to say here? I need to pass as a string here, right? The SQL is need to pass a string to get query locator. I cannot pass this, right? Because string is also a character. So it means it will, if you give within single quotes this query, then the syntax check will give an error because single quotes are also part of this query. Okay, will not be accepted, right? So we have to say to the compiler, uh, we have to say to the compiler the single quotes is a part of the query. I can do like this. This will not give any issue, right? I can run this. If when I can run, no syntax error, it will run, isn't it? Now, if I say and stage equal to close to one, I cannot, right? Unexpected token. You see, I cannot do this. I cannot do this because single quote is also a character in this string. So what you have to do now, we have to say right to the compiler it's also a part of it. So we have to escape this by using a backslash character. Wherever you have a single quote, you just have to put backslash so that it is also a character as part of the string. Got me? That's it. So this just a SQL part. So now you'll see this. Oh, I just repeated. Sorry. Okay, this is fine. Whatever. We're just concentrating on this part. Okay, the single quotes. How to escape the single quotes character. How to have something as part of your query. Which is not accepted by the compiler, and how to have this, how that character is also a part of the query. Then you use the uh, the escape character. Okay, what is the issue here? Opportunity is not supported. Why? Do you have any class called opportunity already? Created date, I guess. Okay, what is the issue here? Opportunity. Like ID from opportunity object is not supported. Surprised to know that we see this. Hmm. Remember the setting is, I think some setting is changed. Um, yes, we have to, tooling API have to uncheck, right? Sorry, I think that's all the confusion. Right, so, okay, fine. So let's move on to batch effect. Right, so we'll quickly write a batch effects now. Let's take the, yes, batch update opportunity date. Okay, batch update opportunity date. Right. So what is the query we are going to build? So what you are going to update first? Okay, what you are going to update? You're going to update the date, right? So we need a date field here. Close date from opportunity where, right? Create a date equal to today, and don't put don't hit enter because break line character will also be considered, which will get syntax error. You have to else you have to escape that. Okay, you have to include the break line character. So here within single quotes we say closed one. We have to escape this, right? Backslash and backslash. Correct. Right now, follow this. So what are you going to have here? Logic. What is the logic you are going to have here? Anybody? What is the logic you are going to have here? Tell me. So you are going to iterate this, right? For every transaction, you are going to iterate this, and so opportunity. Okay. And what are you going to do? OP dot next step equal to. Okay, I was talking about next step. Next step equal to uh, close today, and no action is required. No further action is required. Right? So this is what I updated here. Okay, so you know, right? So any number of rows this row SQL returns, that will be divided, and those number of execute will run, and each will have a separate transaction. What is missing here? Update. So what I have to update here? Anybody? What I have to update here? Everyone else are able to see the screen? Everyone else are able to see the screen? Okay. Naveen, log off and log in back maybe. I hope everyone else is able to see the screen, right? Others. Others are there. Kiran, Alfie. Are you there, Kiran? Can you respond in chat window? Alfia, are you there? I have to update the scope, right? Okay, let me proceed. How to run a batch. How to run a batch? The batch would run uh, by creating an instance. How to run a batch? You create an instance. Suppose this is my batch. Okay, this is my batch. Then you create an instance, right? You create an instance, and that instance must be uh, passed as an argument to the a method called database.execute method. Okay, you have to pass that's an argument. The method accepts two arguments: object of batch fx, object of batch fx, and batch size. Batch size anything can be between 1 to 2000. The batch size can be anything between 1 to 2000, but by default it's going to process 200 records. By default it's process 200 records. The batch size can be anything between 1 to 2000. Right. So for example, this is a batch I'm going to run. Create the instance and pass that as an argument here. If you don't mention here, what happens? This is how you'll run the batch. Okay, you can store it into another variable or not. It's your choice. It's going to return ID basically, like your cubable. Okay, so these are run the batch. So how to run this batch now basically? How to run this? You have to run like this. Batch update. So manually run the batch. We are seeing now manually run the batch. Okay, and then database execute batch. Okay, ma. Follow this. Right. So this is how run it. So when you execute it, the batch will be automatically kicked off, and you will see we have to monitor under where you monitor the feature method, right? So there you will monitor whatever the jobs that runs in asynchronously. You monitor over there. Okay. So any batch size you like to define, you can define it. Okay. So since we do not have data which are operations which are closed today, I make it as not equal to. I make it as not equal to, and we'll see this demo, right? Maybe for not equal to how many rows I also remove the created date. Okay, just keep this query for your reference, and I'm going to use different query now in order to get uh, all the rows, right? Whatever created any date, I'm going to get this so that we'll have some batch to process. I say like each batch will process just 5 records. Okay, if you have don't mention 200 records, I don't think so. My data, my R will have more than 200 records, so you'll never see the how many batches. No, more than one batch now. So I made it as 5. Next, got me. But normally each batch default size is 200, but you can define any size here till 2000 you can go. But best practice, don't go beyond 200. That's what the best practice to avoid hitting down the limits or right for SOQL or DML. Okay, I just keep it as 5 to see I know whether we are able to see 5 batches. But before that, let me check how many records we have in the database here. 31. If I say 10, how many batch will run? If I say 10, how many batch will run? How many execute will run? How many small batch will run? If I say 10 here, batch size. Total 31 records now. How many batch it may run? You've seen, right? Total 31 records in the SOQL query. How many batch you can expect? four batches, right? Because we mentioned here 10. Each batch is going to be 10, and the fourth batch will run just one record, isn't it? Correct? As per this example. Okay, execute. And where should I monitor? Jobs, jobs, four, isn't it? Four batches. Okay, four batches, right? Okay, so how will you do this? There are, more than a large volume of data are there in the database which are closed last week. Every week we are losing many opportunities. The organization is very huge customer database, has very huge customer database. So there are millions of opportunities are won and closed. It's no more use regular scenarios in my business. Then I'd like to close. In order to save the database storage, I'd like to remove the closed last opportunities every week beginning. The last week data I need to get and uh, delete it. So how to do that? Cleaning up the data, right? Clean up the data. Okay, right? Clean up the data. But when I have to run this, every week beginning I have to run this, right? So what we are going to do, we need to create a batch of X, and we need to have a start query. You need to get the data which are closed, and that last modified date is going to be last week. There is a keyword last week. Last week. Okay, you can use this in your SQL code to get the last week data. Okay, and which are closed last. So basically, you're going to have a query like this. Correct? Escape the single quotes character. You'll have this in the get query locator. So what is the maximum number of records you can return in get query locator? What is the maximum number of records you can return in square bracket SQL query? Square bracket, within a square bracket you refer the SQL query, right? What is the maximum number of rows in a counter limit you can return, right? How many rows the SQL can return in one transaction? 50,000 rows, right? But here the get query located in batch Apex can return 50 million. Maximum how many? 50 million. Okay, 50 million records you can process, more than your data loader. Data loader is just 5 million, right? Data loader. Okay, so it's going to return 50 million. Right, Ma? You follow this? Don't be panicked when you see this copy-paste story. You should be able to analyze it. Okay, you should be able to analyze this. This is how you are going to work in real time, right? Not everything you're going to write from the scratch. Okay, you'll see the programs written by others, and you should be able to debug and understand and then modify, right? So this is a query, and this is how you get all the closed last which are created last week, and you just have to delete. That's it. Delete. Got me? Suppose this returns 1,000, then every delete you're going to just process 200 records. That's it by default. Okay. And in finish method, you see, I just try to get the status and email the status to the manager. The email part we'll see later. Right now, if you give may confuse you, email part will later. And async apex job will always take a row for every asynchronous process. Okay, so any asynchronous process you run, this object will take a row. System will insert a row. Okay, and what is the ID? ID is nothing but the context we have, right? It's nothing but an object, right, of a class belongs to namespace database. So this class as the instance methods get job ID, using which you can get the current job ID of the batch. So you can get the status. Okay. So this is a flexibility we have in batch effects and queuable effects, right? When you run, the system returns, the method returns ID. Correct, ma? You follow this? Okay. So how can you run this? I can run manually. That's what you have seen here. I can run manually. I can run from any other class. I can run this from Visual Force page, isn't it? I can run this from Visual Force page. Suppose I'm going to get this date from uh, from UI, then I run this. So how can you run this batch from Visual Force page? How can you run this batch from Visual Force page? Anybody? So what is the class you have to associate here? What is the class you have to associate here? Clean up, clean up last sales, right? Okay. Sorry, not this class. I'm sorry. This class I'm going to associate here. Okay, and I'm going to have a method here. Void run batch effects. Okay, so it's a method I'm going to refer here. Okay, run batch or something, right? Then I'm going to have all the mm, something like this. We haven't closed this. Save this. Yep. So now, okay, now when you click on this button, the batch effect should run, isn't it? When you click on this button, the batch effect should run. But right now, no logic is given. So what I have to do now? So I'm going to run this, right? So whatever did in anonymous window, right? Manually when you run this, you have to do like this. So database dot execute batch CLS. Okay, fine now. Follow this. Follow this, everyone. You got it? So what happens if I run this? This method will be submitted and batch will be executed. So this again manual, right? And we just go in the interface and they run this batch manually. Got me? Suppose I need to get the batch size from the UI. I should get the batch size from UI. Okay, you're going to decide the batch size here. Right? Like this, right? Okay, whatever. So here, run the batch and run, then the batch will be submitted with respect to the size we pass, right? So some just no, I no giving you a different perspective. You have to think out of right outside the boundary, right? So any way you can perform the batch effects manually. But our requirement is to run every week beginning, right? So that previous week data it takes and um, submit. So it's something like a scheduling. How to schedule the batch? It's not just batch. How to schedule a class? That's what my question is. Okay. How to schedule? If you manually run this every week beginning, then what do you have to do? Every week beginning, we can manually run this batch. All you have to do is go here and submit this every week beginning. But we need to automate this. I do not want to manually submit this batch. No, then I would like to automate this. To automate any batch of any class, not only batch effects, any class you like to automate, then you go for um, a framework called Scheduleable effects. You follow this, all of you? You follow this? You have to go for Scheduleable effects. So Scheduleable effects is basically any Apex class you like to run this, you know, specific time. We use Scheduleable effects. It's nothing but an interface again. It's again interface. Okay. So a class must implement the interface and which has a method called execute method with this context. Like you have a context variable in your batch effects. Guys, follow this. Able to follow this? You follow this? So what happens here? You see here. Uh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You have a query here. You have a query, and you will get the account ID created this week, and I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this. Okay. So wherever the account ID which are created this week, we right there is a uh, there is an instant where all the accounts which are created this week are not valid, right? There is a scenarios happened all the account created current week which are not valid. We did some bulk process through data loader or somehow, okay, we uploaded test data in the environment which are need to be cleaned up, okay, and so it happens every week. It happens every week. Then what are you going to do? We are going to have that logic in the method called execute method. The method belongs to interface, right? This is a class, implement this interface, and method belongs to the interface, and anything you have inside the method, it's going to be, it can be scheduled to run at particular time, right, ma? If follow this, and this is asynchronous process. This is an asynchronous process, and you can have any number of methods here. Those methods, right? Those uh, I know cannot be in asynchronous. Only the logic inside the execute is going to be asynchronous. This is a class, right? You can have any number of methods in the class, but not all the methods. You can run asynchronously. Only this part of the logic you can submit asynchronously. Like in batch effects also, in batch effects also we have, um, isn't it? We have start, execute, finish. This is a class, right? I can have any other methods also, right? But in real time, we may not have different methods. In batch effects, you have only these three methods, but you can have additional methods that that is not going to do anything, like this. What you divide the data and you will have asynchronous limits, right? Asynchronous limits only applicable for your asynchronous process. Got me? So when you execute the batch effects, the start method will run and execute will run and finish will run, not the other method. Other methods you have to run by, with the help of instance dot method name. If you have any other method here, that way you run it. That method will not have asynchronous limit. That is not your batch effects. Got me? You're just thinking, in all other perspective as well. Okay, so now, now how we are going to run this? How are you going to run this? Suppose this uh, batch I have schedulable apex. Um, correct? I can run this at any time I want. Declaratively, first we can see declaratively. Okay, declaratively how to run this. go to go to Apex class interface. Go to Apex class interface. We have a schedulable Apex. Schedule Apex. How to schedule an Apex? Give the name for the job. Give the name for the job, and choose a class that implements the schedulable interface. Not every class. Every class may available for your, even not available, right? Only the class that has interface implements the interface schedulable, only those classes allowed. So which class you are going to run? This class execute logic, right? This class execute logic you are going to run. Okay, if follow this class execute logic you are going to run. And what is the name of the job name that's going to be seen in the queue? Delete account queue. And how we are going to run? So only this, you know, uh, frequency is possible, weekly or monthly, not like yearly or not like hourly ones, not like daily ones. Daily ones is possible, but hourly ones may not be possible here, right? So you will just go with the defined immediate. Then you say, like this, 6 p.m. every Sunday I have to run this. Yes, if you can do this. Okay, or else Friday evening, 6 p.m. Every data this week must be deleted and save, and it will run accordingly. Got me? So when it will run, so only one day, if you like to run it for, till to next 6 months, I need to run, 4 months, I need to run, you can do like. You follow this, declaratively schedule the batch, declaratively schedule the batch to run. Okay, so how can I now come to batch effects? This is your schedulable apex. Schedulable apex is no. We are going to see later. After this, a few minutes later, we'll see how to schedule this in different frequency programmatically. Programmatically, okay. Now I am going to explain. Yeah, this batch apex, right? This batch apex we need to run every week. Uh, Once I have to run this batch apex every Monday, for example, Monday morning. What I have to do? Okay, what I have to do? You have to call this batch from the schedulable apex. That's it. You have to call this batch from the schedulable apex. So all you have to do is you have to do like this. What happens now? If I save this, what happens now? Which one is going to run every month, every week, Friday 6 p.m.? This one, right? The batch apex is scheduled now. Got me? So whatever I have in this execute method, that can be scheduled to run at particular time. That is the purpose of here, this schedulable apex class. You got me? You got me, everyone? Okay, ma. So schedulable apex is used to run any logic to run at particular time. It can be batch apex or it can be any of your any statement you have in this execute method. Okay. So declaratively we can schedule this, right? So okay. So what are the other considerations we have in batch apex? What are the other consideration we have in batch apex? Just see here. Um, okay, in batch apex, um, this is one batch, right? This is one batch. This is one batch, right? Like this, my organization has say 10 different batches we are running every day. 10 different batches we are having every week, and at once every day. Say for example, Monday. Every Monday we are running almost no 20 batch apex like this. This is one batch apex, one batch job. I'm not talking about small batches. That is a part of it. That's the part of. Okay. So when I say 20 different batches, which means 20 different, the whole framework we have. Okay. Like that, if we submit 20 different batches like this, then how many batches can be in the queue? Can run at time, right? Can run at a time. If you submit 20 different batches, all batches will come here, but only 5 batches, right? Suppose this one batch and this one batch, only 5 batches will run at a time. Rest of the batches will be in a queue, will not run. Only 5 batches can active at a time. That means if you submit 20 different batches like this at a time, on the same time, how many batches will run in the queue? How many batches will run in the queue? Just asking what I said. I just wanted to repeat what I said. How many batches you can run? Like this, if you have 20 different batch class, I submit using database.execute batch. How many batch will run in the queue, active at a time? How many? Only 5, only 5. Okay, rest 15 will be in a queue. So once any of the 5 running batches done, then next will take the position. Next will take the execution. Got me? Is it clear to all of you? Is it clear? Okay. And how to track the status of the batch? We know that async apex job, we can get the status of the job. Okay. And this is where you monitor. That's you already know. And how to suppose the batch is running, I like to stop the batch. If you perform this in the uh, anonymous window, or you just perform on button click, you're going to get the ID of the job and you can abort. This method will delete the job, stop the batch of X that which are running. Okay, how to get the job ID? Job ID will be here, right? You have to get the job ID and then abort it. So you can get the various conditions. What are the job currently running and what is the job name? It's all part of this uh, object. Okay, which are part of this object. So I just given here ID only, but you can query with the different filter criteria and get the ID and pass that ID here, job.id. Then you see, um, the batch effects will get aborted. You can do it. Yes. Shall I proceed? Shall I proceed? Kiran, Alfie, are you there? Are you there? Are you there in the session? I don't think so. What happened? Okay. Every execute method is a discrete transaction, right? Every execute method is a discrete transaction. Okay, right? Say, for example, Slash forwards. Okay, see here, I close every opportunities, right? Which are closed one, I just make it as just closed today date. Make sure all the opportunities which are closed as okay as today's date. A more realistic example, I just add which are created today. Okay, I just make it as close today, date as today, right? So now finally when I'm in finish method, no, I would like to get the total value of opportunities, total amount of opportunity which are processed. So what I can do, how to calculate sum of all the at least total number of records, how many records I processed in this batch, how to get that, total number of records I processed. So every time just count it. That's it, right? Count plus plus maybe, and this is a kind of integer variable I declare. Okay, initially 0, and now uh, you know uh, we make it as count equal to count plus 1, isn't it? Count equal to count plus 1, right, ma? You follow this? That's how I'm going to do this. Okay, then finally I'm going to I'm going to update this into an object, and finally, right, that object is going to have a, only two fields, says like the day, no, when that batch has run and how many number of records it processed. So I'm going to capture this in an object. Hold on, much hanging. Okay, the fields I'm going to have here is the text type, else date time, run date and time. This is one of the field. Another field is how many number of records processed, total records, processed. Okay, and then maybe I'll have a currency field, uh, total value. Okay, so these are three fields I have in the batch. So every time I run the batch, I need to update that. Okay, I need to update that. So one is count, and another is amount. So amount I say public decimal. Okay, right now. So total equal to what are going to sum up here? Plus OP dot amount. Correct. So finally, once all the batch run, I'm going to update that into this object, right? Batch effect status. So batch effect status. Correct. Are you able to follow this? What I'm trying to do here? So what I'm going to do now? Bs dot your total records processed. maybe too lengthy filling. Count. Okay, we had so C. Okay, and bs dot. Let me first say this. Okay, bs dot. What else? Run date time. Right, run date time. Just I get the current. Okay, current date time. Right, and then yes dot. What else? Total value. Total value is nothing but total, whatever you calculate. And then I insert into. Okay, you follow this? Okay, so this is my batch effects. This is my batch effects. And I'm just going to comment this because I may not have a data to test in my environment. So I make it a simple query now. As of now, I make it as simple query. Okay, so for your reference, you can keep this query, the commented query later. And I'm not going to update anything. Just we are going to check. Just we are going to check whether able to get the count in the object. Okay. So before I run this batch, let's check this. How many number of rows we have? It's 31, right? Okay, it's 31, and we have these many amounts. You know what is the total number of opportunities amount and 31. So what should get in the finally in this object, right? What are the total number of records? 31 here. Okay, we divide the batch now. We make the batch size as 5 now, right? So now the batch size should be calculated, and finally it should be 31, and whatever the opportunities we have, the total I should get here. Correct? You agree with me? You agree with me? So that's what you're expecting, right? So we'll do that. How to run this batch? How to run this batch? Okay, just make it as 10, let it be, and execute. Okay, so first you check whether the batch is run. First you check whether the batch is run, completed. Then we can query the object, batch apex status object, and see. Okay, it run. So these are the fields. These are the fields I have. Select the total number of records processed, total run date. Okay, and the total, I mean the runtime from which object? This object, right? And here, what do you got here? Just run date alone we got, and rest is zero. Rest is zero. Okay, the reason, no dependency between the batches. No dependency between the two batches. Everything is considered as a separate transaction, isn't it? A discrete transaction. No dependency. To have a dependency, you have to implement the interface called database dot stateful interface. You have to implement interface called database dot stateful interface. Okay, database dot stateful interface. If I implement this interface, then track status between the two batches, execute batches, can be tracked. Still, it is a discrete transaction, but the state can be established. Okay, so you just first in one batch you count total number of records and volume, right? That will be carried forward to the other batch. You follow this, all of you? You follow this? Isn't it? You get total records processed. Okay, why it is 4? Yeah, you should have keep that count inside, right? Here, here, you have to count, keep it here. Correct. So you see the total number of counts processed, but the other things are able to get it. You see like you're able to get total volume of opportunity, total value of opportunities, and other details you got. We'll follow this. So only 5 batches you can run. Maximum 50 million data you can process. And from the finish method, you can start another batch also. Okay, from the finish method, you can start another batch. And batch effects can also be scheduled without a schedulable effects. Batch effects can also be scheduled. How to do that? There's a method called system. Scheduled batch belongs to class system that takes 3 arguments. Your batch effects, which one? I mean object. Okay, and name of the job. You can only refer the time here in minutes. So if I suppose I put 60, then if I submit this statement 60 minutes from now, the batch will run. Only once the batch can run in this way, not like periodically. Periodically run, you have to go with keep the submit statement inside the schedulable apex. Okay, that way you can, or else if you like to have a different frequency, say hourly ones, which are not possible in the declarative way. In the declarative way, we have a limitation, right? Monthly and weekly. Okay, either if you like to go with hourly every day, 4 hours once or something different, custom time, time factor frequency, then you have to go with schedulable effects. Programmatically, you have to, you know, schedule this. I will see. I will show you that. Before I get into that, how to call a database, a call out from trigger. How to call a call out from trigger? Feature method, right? Using feature method, add feature. But in batch effects, we cannot call feature method. Okay. So then from batch effects, right? Because we cannot from execute only, you are going to call external system. From execute only, you are going to call the external system. So usually, if it is in a trigger or any other class, you will go with that feature annotation. But you cannot call You cannot make this method as a static or a feature, right? So you cannot call another feature also from here. So what we have to do is we have to implement another interface, allow callouts interface. We have to implement another interface called allow callout interface like this, comma. Then if you implement this interface, then you'll see I can call out from here. I can call out from here. You follow this? Okay, hopefully this will covered in the interface session, integration session. Okay, we'll follow this. You'll see a detailed notes in my site. You can get download my notes regarding batch effects and asynchronous process. Got me? And in the how to schedule the batch programmatically, how to schedule the batch programmatically. If you see here, it's detail given in the notes also. And there is a expression you need to build. The expression will have the parameters, no, seconds, minutes, hours, which day of the month, which year, right? Month of the year, and every year, which month you have to run, and which day of the week, whether Monday, every Monday or every Friday, and all those parameters you will build. That expression is called a cron expression. You have to build that cron expression. Okay, so you see here, suppose the job needs to run at 10:30 a.m. Okay, 30. Which hours? 10 hours. And which day of the month? Every 10th of the month, March 3. And no day, no criteria for year. Then we make it as question mark. Okay, so if you see the Apex grade, it's given very detailed, even more than this. And job nuts run at 8 p.m. Just hours only I have to mention, and every Saturday. So every day consists, like in numbers. Sunday is 1 and Monday is 2. If you make 7, it's going to be on every Saturday. Okay, right? They start from Sunday. They start from Sunday. So it's Sunday takes 1, not Monday. Okay, then Friday becomes 6, Saturday becomes 7. And job has to run every second Friday. Every second Friday. I don't know, this is a kind of special consideration. Maybe you consider this second Friday. And last Friday, okay, L. So all these are all certain special considerations. May not very, have everything in uh, all the time in fingertip, right? So just you have to refer the uh, guide and you can run it as per your uh, demand. Okay. So once you build this expression in the form of string, then where I have to pass this? I have to pass this as an argument to system.schedule. Job name, cron expression, and what you're going to schedule, the object of the schedulable class. The object of the schedulable class. You don't give anything here. Only the schedulable class only you can run this. The object of this, which means whatever you have it in the execute method will be scheduled as per this cron expression. Okay. So there are 3 arguments for schedule. Belongs to a class system. Job name, whatever expression you build, and object of schedulable class. So that way you can schedule as per your demand. When you go for declarative way has limitation, right? When you go for a schedule method which accepts cron expression, okay, then you'll see any type of scheduling you can do. And you cannot schedule a job to run less than an hour. You cannot schedule. It's not possible. Okay. Sorry, less than 24 hours you cannot do usually. Even 24 hours you cannot do. And in order to do that, we have to go with a different workaround solution. Um, you have to submit one job to run at 9 a.m. for example, and you have to submit another job to run at 10 a.m. And right, so okay, I have this consideration. 1 minute. Right, what I say, just first be familiar with this framework. I will do that in every hour once how to run the job later. So first you have to practice this. Okay. So let's practice this and let me know your queries, and I will show you. The right. I will given here some important questions for your reference. Just go through it. But I am going to ask different questions which are not covered here, that you have to practice from internet and source. And I may ask different questions other than this. So right, anyway, before we wind up the developer session, we are going to have some mock interview discussions. Okay, I will see how many of you are able to answer the question. Okay, when I ask questions, you say I know the answer. You just put in chat window, you know that. Or else it's a kind of audio, right? So you have to speak out. Okay, so maybe next week, sometimes we'll have that session. When do you like to have? After the integration or before integration? An interview kind of session. I'll post questions and I will see how you are doing. You tell me after integration or before integration. After integration, then take time, work out, no, practice very, no, take the serious preparation. We'll see. Okay, then see you tomorrow then. Take care.